So I was having this debate in the household about the suspension of the Constitution and whether you could actually do that. Whether Trump has said that he would suspend the Constitution. And my husband thinks there's no way you could suspend the Constitution. So I want to ask my favorite lawyer if that's ever possible. And also, question number two, a two-pronged approach. We've heard in the chat today people talking about Trump possibly declaring himself the winner before the votes are even counted. Is it a tradition and just logical to wait till a real result comes in? Or is it illegal to scoop in and claim that you won before you really won?
Well, Trump, obviously likes to bully people and likes to assert these things that aren't true and then try to make his reality, like propagandists do by constant repetition. But him out of power is a whole different story. We managed to have a fair election in 2020 that ousted him even when he was an incumbent. And he's out of power now. So all the things that he threatens, a bloodbath, we have a tremendous police force and federal officers and everything. There's not going to be a bloodbath. That won't even start. People start to threaten that or do things like that. It's a totally different kettle of fish because he's out of power. The point I was trying to make about the election was just that there are a lot of ways that you can try to get around the guardrails. And there were a lot of people who kept the guardrails in place in 2020. And so, of course, people are worried that the guardrails will not be kept in place because he's got this 2025 plan that, he says now he disavows. But of course, it's hundreds of people who worked for him who went and wrote this provision of this 2025 plan. And in it, there's a lot of things that would turn the government, greatly in his favor, trying to get rid of the civil service. I don't think you could do that. But the question is always, will people stand up to him? The pressure, when he used to send out 80 million, he used to tweet to 80 million people. It was hard to stand up to it. You look at what happened with the Department of Justice. They say, well, he really couldn't order those things because, he had, even Sessions as bar, as much as I disagreed with so many things, they weren't just, yes, Mr. President, I'll indict that person, Mr. President. We do have a constitution that gets in the way, and we have protocol that got in the way. And so the threat is that he'll go around that protocol and try to give direct orders. If he tried to say, like, let's indict this person, he said that at his cabinet meeting, he tried to explain to him how complicated it is to indict somebody. It has to be an investigation. He says, well, if the attorney general won't indict him, can't I just charge him? Well, I mean, this unbelievably narcissistic, authoritarian, despotic view that he has, and he has it. I mean, I've seen enough of this now to say that he has it. Could he suspend the Constitution? Well, no. The answer is no. But he could do things like he was threatening to put that Insurrection Act into place. Some court, if he actually said, I'm now ordering, because there's an insurrection in this country, that the military do X, Y, and Z, that would be immediately challenged in the court. They might try to get that before Judge Cannon. It would be very rapidly appealed if some judge like Judge Cannon actually ruled in his favor. And I believe that the federal appellate courts, even if it went through the Fifth Circuit somehow, the U.S. Supreme Court would not stand for that. I have enough confidence in them that no, they would not, even this group of 9 would not allow the suspension of the Constitution. During the Civil War, and we were at a civil war, Lincoln, who I admired so much, suspended the writ of habeas corpus. So at that point, if the military arrested you, you stood arrested. And there's a great story with Chief Justice Taney. They should take his statue out of the out of all the public buildings. He was just terrible. Dred Scott decision and all that. But Taney ruled against Lincoln. And there's a great scene where Taney's walking home expecting to be arrested in his walk between his Supreme Court office and his home. He's expecting to be arrested, and he's sort of trying to figure out how he would get out with the writ of habeas corpus having been suspended. He wasn't arrested. The North won the Civil War. Then he got killed, and Reconstruction got nixed.
Yeah, I mean, there were a number of, right, after the Civil War, there was a number of, that's a whole other fascinating legal history as well, and I only know it in a cursory way. You really know it. So, David, as we sit back here, we're kind of out of time. I sort of have I don't know if this is broken or not yet. I know that there's another. Thank you. I'm seeing this. That there is another accuser on Trump who was groping this model. Her name is Stacey Williams, and these are allegations that are detailed by her in a very kind of moving video. And I've also seen it reported in a few places. This is again when he was hanging out with Jeffrey Epstein, and she was brought to him by Jeffrey Epstein. But I don't see any legal. Has she brought legal charges, Kim? I didn't see any legal charges brought. I just saw her coming forward now. She's a native of rural Pennsylvania.
Not yet.
And she was a model, and she was a successful model. She was an international model, but she's young. I mean, she's a teenager, and she meets Trump, and he groped the crap out of her, and apparently it was traumatic. But these things exist in their own sort of legal universe, I guess, David, where even the E. Jean Carroll thing became money, didn't seem to dirty him up politically in any way. It's odd to me. I mean, that he has this laundry list. Even in 2016, he had this. All of these women, I think there were 75 of them who reported these different issues with Trump groping. And many of them, I think, did actually try to mount some kind of legal challenge to him. But in the end, the legality of it just gets sort of, it takes money, I guess, to sue him or to bring charges against him. There's a statute of limitations, I suppose, on the groping. Explain to me why these things, just from a general standpoint, don't really seem to land in any way on Trump.
Well, I think that's more of a political, issue. They have extended the statute of limitations for certain crimes. And whether the groping would be enough of a sexual crime that it's covered by some statute that extended the statute of limitations. She may yet have a valid civil claim because of one of those statutes of limitations. But, one thing that struck me was when he made that remark about the golfer's penis. You could kind of tell where he was going in that public address. And they had a woman who was sitting behind him, obviously a Trump supporter, who was supposed to, applaud for everything and think it was wonderful. And when it was clear where he was going, the woman was sitting there with her young daughter, and the mother put her fingers in her daughter's ears right away and averted her daughter's glance. And then I guess she's going to go vote for Trump and tell her friends to go vote for Trump. So I'll never understand that phenomenon. But if I can just say one thing, if you don't mind, Mark, about a Katz prediction. I predicted that our DA down here, George Gascon, would come out in support of the resentencing of the Menendez brothers. He's going to do that today, or he's doing it as we're speaking right now. And then I think the ball will be in Hochman's court to see, what Hochman's position is on all of that. I just do want to point out that's another remarkable election. And I know Gascon has been so dirtied up by the press and the Fox News and everything they've said about him. But I still find it remarkable that a Democratic, progressive prosecutor who tried to do something about mass incarceration and maybe gave a few too many people a break when he started out is in this much trouble and is about to lose to someone who I know and respect, Nathan Hochman, who is, he's not a Democrat. He's supported by the police unions with millions of dollars and the bail bond people and all those sort of people. So it looks like you said last week, probably inevitable that even if Hispanics come out, Democrats come out for Gascon, probably it's over in that race. And then I think it's going to be interesting to see what the police unions were paying millions of dollars for. Are we going to not have any prosecutions of police officers? Because we didn't have him under his predecessor, Gascon's. He came in, and are we going to have less of that? Are we going to have bail bonds again, Mark? It used to be if somebody got charged with domestic violence, it could be a small incident, middle-class person, kind of person that I represented, kind of person Nathan Hochman represented. Right off the bat, they'd have a $50,000 bail. You knew very well they weren't going to run away. They weren't going to do anything. They were going to go right home, right? But they had to pay this $50,000 bail bond. That's $5,000 in the pocket of the bail bonds people. There's this whole bail bonds industry. In the federal system, Bobby Kennedy got rid of it. We managed to run the federal courts since Bobby Kennedy without bail bonds, with bail officers who don't charge a bond. They figure out whether the person's going to come back or not, and they figure out some conditions like electronic monitoring so the person comes back. And of course, the last thing is that Nathan Hochman says that Gascon doesn't know how to try a case. And he does, although I was the DA for a while in Brooklyn. But Hockman's never been a DA, but he has to go try a case. He has to go try one of those high-profile cases, right? Because he dissed Gascon, that Gascon doesn't know how to try one, and Hockman sure does. So he better go try one. And he also needs to treat Gascon's people when he takes over fairly, because he's made a big issue that Gascon didn't treat the other prosecutors fairly when he came in. So Hockman, of course, has a duty, and I think he'll live up to it. To treat everyone fairly in that office, whether they were for him or against him, or whether they were supposedly a Gascon person or not.
This speaks to the political shift in America and in major cities, and the fact that progressive prosecutors are just being edged out, I mean, and voted out. We saw it in San Francisco with Chesa Boudin, and now you're seeing it. It's not even close in Los Angeles. I think there's a 30-point lead that Hockman has.
Here's what else is interesting. Soros won't give money anymore. Now, you know, Soros gave money. He was idealistic. He had nothing to gain by this. He idealistically believed that, you know, juveniles should be treated as juveniles if possible and not given adult criminal records, that there was a way to do restorative justice, that police officers who broke the law should be punished, just like non-police officers who break the law are prosecuted and punished. And he believed in those kinds of changes out of, I think, just pure altruism. And he got savaged in the press. They said everything. They said things about him that were horrible. I think they were made up. And he had this constant drumbeat of invective against him. Who needs it? Who needs it? I think that was all it was, you know? And so he didn't want to put the money in this time either to save Boudin, and he hasn't put in a dime to help. So you have this, it's so anomalous. It really is. Here's somebody who's spending 10 times as much as Gascon. And it's like something you read from one of the red states. A guy who's not a Democrat is beating a Democrat. A guy who's not a progressive is beating a progressive. A guy who's got 10 times as much money from the police unions is beating a progressive prosecutor. And it's all happening. And as you say, with a 20 or 30% margin. So I just hope it all works out.
Isn't that great? That should be the tagline on everything that we ever talk about. I love our time together. Alas, it's over. David, appreciate you. We'll watch for you on News Nation and across, I say, the English-speaking world with all of your legal analysis.
Oh, my God. Cuomo has Vance today. I don't know if you should watch Katz. Don't watch Vance. I'm their best guest.
I don't know. I don't know. JD Vance is like he makes despotism sort of warm and cuddly. Isn't that sort of his basic vibe? I mean, I don't get it. So thanks, David. David Katz, everybody. Talk to you soon.
Great to be with you, Kim. Thanks for your question.
Yeah, good stuff, Kim.
Hi, it's Mark, and I thought that was great. Hit the notification bell. You'll know whenever there's a new video being dropped, and please subscribe to our channel to help us save the universe.